All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are on chapter 22. We're still talking about being vulnerable, being authentic, sharing our real, authentic feelings from the heart, not having a need to hide like what we really feel, hide our heart. And when we express ourselves with vulnerability, we're likely to get the same back from our husband. And it's a connecting energy. When it's an honest energy, is a connecting energy. So last week we spoke about how we feel, and if we're kind of not all in, and we're comparing our husband, and we're thinking, maybe I should have done, you know, maybe I could have picked a different man, or like whatever stories we believe in our head, and how our husband feels that energy that we're not all in. Um, so this week is kind of about his side. What if he's not all in? What if he like is sharing his feelings, and he feels that, sometimes he's angry and he'll say, I don't love you anymore. I never loved you, or I don't want to be in this relationship. And he just says hurtful things. Like how do we respond in an authentic and vulnerable way to this kind of situation? So this is what we're going to be talking about this week. So chapter 22, page 223. What if you're not the one on the fence, but you're about your marriage? What if he's the one who's distant, absent, or sleeping in the other bedroom? It's painful to be married to a man who never has time for you because he's working a lot, has hobbies that keep him busy, or is constantly staring at his phone. Feeling rejected on a daily basis is as he snuggles with the dog or the kids but offers you only disinterest or icy glares is not what you signed up for when you married him. Even worse, it may feel like the decision to make your marriage last and thrive is out of your hands, especially if he's not even communicating with you. But revealing your heart is a compelling force for attracting him back, like steel to a magnet. It's proven true for all of Laura's students. That's what she's sharing in the book. Even if there's a crisis, like these are like real crisis situations. He said he doesn't love her anymore, or that he never did. They're separated. He has another woman, or she has another man. He said it's over and that he won't reconsider, or even if he filed for divorce. So even if he's feeling distant, it's because we were in a state of not feeling safe in the world and trying to control every situation and not being respectful. So sometimes that has the ability of completely um, turning him away from us and him feeling unsafe to be around us. So, but there is a way to repair. There's always a way to do tshuva. And what is that way to repair? What is the answer? It's vulnerability. It's showing up vulnerable. This is the way to repair when we're feeling disconnected from our side, or when he's feeling that disconnect. Even when he's not willing to give the marriage a chance and isn't speaking to her, we see courageous students save their marriage with the counterintuitive, like it feels counterintuitive, like he doesn't want me. Why should I do anything? He doesn't want me. Why should I work on myself? Why should I, be vulnerable with him? It's scary. It really is scary to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of humility to, the first thing that we want to do when, God forbid, if he says, I don't love you, I never loved you, whatever it is that he says in anger, the first thing we want to do is hide our heart. We want to shield our heart, want to protect our heart. But it's counterintuitive to be open, to be vulnerable. But this is what's going to pull him back in. This is what's attractive. This is what is going to repair that relationship, is not closing our heart off, but opening our heart. It's the counterintuitive but gratifying approach of practicing the 6 intimacy skills. And a lot of times it's more helpful. That this is why I wanted to create this community, and if you need a one-on-one coach, that's available also. Talk about feeling vulnerable. I can't think of anything more painful or heartbreaking than hearing your husband say, I don't love you anymore. Maybe I never did. Or it's over. I'm in love with someone else. Or maybe even worse, to discover those things without being told. Even if he's just preoccupied with sports, like it doesn't have to be something so huge where, he says that I don't love you or I have another woman. Even, it's just as painful if he's preoccupied with other things, with sports, or he's on his phone, but he's not paying attention to you. It hurts a lot to feel neglected or abandoned on the regular. A common way for any mere mortal woman to respond to being hurt is with anger. So usually when we're hurt, the feeling on the surface is hurt. The feeling deep inside is hurt, but we respond with anger. We're like, how could this be? And we kind of lash out at him, and we're triggered, and the feeling is hurt, but we kind of like react with anger, which is the opposite of vulnerability, but feels so justified and is practically involuntary. We don't even, it's kind of like a automatic response. Like I'm hurt, so I'm gonna hurt you back. I'm gonna be angry at you and I'm gonna lash out and I'm gonna call you all the names, and I did all these things for you and how dare you, and all of these things. So that only, like, this is where we were, and we're kind of like, he says something hurtful and we kind of disconnect, and then we kind of say something hurtful, so we disconnect even more. Instead of like saying something to bring us back together, he says something hurtful, I say something hurtful, he says something, and then, so the only way to come back to that intimacy is through vulnerability, to opening our heart. That is the shuvah. It's to return back to to our soul essence, to who we truly are. And it takes stepping out of our ego and our personality and going above what's natural to us, and responding instead of reacting. It's taking that time to regulate our our to regulate our emotions, to regulate our nervous system, to put our hand on our heart, take deep breaths and count to 10, and then respond instead of reacting on autopilot. I'm hurt, so I'm gonna take my guns out and I'm gonna hurt you, which doesn't get us to what we want. What we really want is connection. We want to have a connective relationship, and that's what's gonna get us there. That anger combined with hopelessness about our marriage's future has driven some students to give in to the temptation to find affection outside of their marriage. So she goes into how if we don't have affection inside our marriage, sometimes, it does open up a woman who's hurt and she's looking for affection, she's not getting it at home. It does make her vulnerable, but vulnerable to not what she wants, but it opens her up to, if there's another guy, on the outside who's giving her that, it it creates a situation where she's gonna she has that intimacy with someone else who's not her husband, and it's a recipe for disaster because it's not what we want. There are women who think, like, oh, if I would have married someone else, my life would have been so much better. In reality, if we have our husbands, they're putting up a mirror on things that we need to work on. If we're getting triggered, it's like, even though you might marry someone else, it doesn't mean that the triggers are going to go away. There's there's no person in this world that you're going to have a perfect relationship with. So might as well try to do everything that you can to, you know, to work on yourself and to kind of elevate your relationship to the best possible case scenario. And if you're working on yourself and you're regulating yourself and you're showing up as your best self, and this man doesn't want to elevate with you, he'll leave you alone. Like he will leave you without any conflict, without any fights. Like it's gonna be so easy and so peaceful. Like it's not gonna be something that has to be super painful. Just keep working on yourself. This book, this work, we're empowering ourselves. I'm working on me. I'm standing in my own power. And if that means that I'm going to elevate my relationship, and my husband is game and he wants to elevate with me, then usually most of the time that happens. But there are situations when it doesn't happen. And in situations where the woman wants to be in that fear and hurt and anger and, pulling daggers and just throwing daggers back and forth, there's so much conflict, and you're suffering, he's suffering, the kids are suffering. But if really, really the relationship is done, and like you learned everything that you need to learn from the relationship, and he's really meant to leave, you both meant to leave each other, it's going to end in peace, in a peaceful separation. There's not going to be, conflict or anything like that. But what we learned from all of these teachings is that we're learning all these tools and all these skills for ourselves so that we can stand in our power, so that we're not enmeshed in his emotions. He's allowed to have his emotions. He's on his paper, I'm on my paper. To stay on my side of the street, to stay on my paper, and to learn how to regulate our own emotions and stand in our own power. What students did that got him back? So 225. When the risk of rejection already feels so high, being vulnerable probably feels like the last thing you want to do. There are, however, specific actions you can take to give yourself real relief from that continuous ache of loneliness and to restore the connection and therefore your marriage, even if he won't talk to you. The pathway is through pure vulnerability, meaning it's free of complaints or criticism. So even he's giving you bait, and he's complaining and he's criticizing and he's, not showing up as his best. What can we do in that situation? Our job is to stand in our own power and to give ourselves what we need. How do I feel? What do I need? And to fulfill myself. And if he's throwing bait, just you can leave the room. You don't have to take it. And the more times you resist the bait, the easier it's gonna get. The pathway is through pure vulnerability, meaning it's free of complaints or criticism. You might be thinking, but my husband is repulsed by my vulnerability. He hates when I cry, and he gets gruff or runs away. And that might lead you to think that the intimacy skills won't work with your man. I can see why you would feel that way. There's nothing worse than letting someone see your authentic grief or shyness only to have them respond with hostility or abandoning you. We all want to avoid that. But here's what I've learned from when my husband doesn't respond to me very well. There's something being reflected back to me in my husband mirror. If my grief is also a perceived criticism or complaint about him, or if there's even a drop of blame in my sadness, it's not true vulnerability. Meaning that if I'm coming to him and I'm being vulnerable and I'm saying you, he's just gonna have a defense up. There's not gonna be communication going. He's not really going to be hearing what I want, like my vulnerability and what I want to communicate. So there's a way to communicate. If I'm blaming him or if I'm criticizing him, this is just like repeating what we learned before, that he's not going to be hearing me. Oh, he's gonna put up a wall, and there's like what I want is not really penetrating. It's not gonna be going through. There's not gonna be that like coming back together and intimacy. My tears are an attack with the subtext, you let me down or you disappoint me. So I get a defensive response instead of a soft, comforting one because he's now wounded by my blame, shame, and criticism. And that will trump his instinct to protect and comfort me. So if he's, defending himself from my blame, shame, or criticism, then his his instinct is to protect me. But if he has to protect himself, then he can be protecting me. So if I drop the blame, shame, and criticism, then he's able to be that hero for me. He's able to, see my vulnerability and come and soothe whatever I need him to soothe and comfort. Choosing blame also communicates that I've solved my own problem and nothing further is needed from him. So that unpleasant reaction you're getting from your husband when you cry may not be because he can't stand your crying. If he reacts to your tears with distaste or hostility, it's likely because he hears criticism. If the tears are about losing your dog or from watching a touching commercial or because you didn't sleep well, you'll know your vulnerability is pure because chances are he'll come close and offer comfort. Like if I'm crying because I'm blaming him for something, of course he's gonna feel like I can't be here. Like, she's blaming me. Like she thinks that it's my fault. So he can't show up and be my hero and comfort me because, again, his defenses go up. But if I'm being vulnerable, like if I'm watching a movie and I'm crying, like he has no problem being around me because it has nothing to do with him. And like even he's much more likely to come and like put his arm around us and protect us because he doesn't feel criticized and blamed and shamed. There's no He doesn't need to put his defenses up, so he's able to come and show up as our hero. It's so nice to know the distinction between true vulnerability and complaining with tears, because instead of being mystified by his reaction, I can predict it, or at least reflect on it and understand why he responded with either indifference or protection and comfort. Choosing to be vulnerable was one of the hardest, scariest things I had to learn when I discovered the intimacy skills. To this day, I still feel the instinct to pull myself together so I don't get mascara under my eyes and look like a fool. But when I just let myself fall apart, it creates experiences of connection and love with my husband and with everyone I love that I no longer want to live without. It's such an exhilarating mountaintop experience. So these days, I strive for vulnerability instead of trying to keep a cool exterior. Vulnerability has been the key to refreshing and restoring the connection between my husband and me. I've also seen it breathe new life into broken marriages for thousands of women. Um, who fear that their husbands were not affectionate or were otherwise defective and that their marriage were too far gone to repair. Many such women have shared their stories on the Empowered Wife podcast, describing exactly what they did to get back to being happy wives. Here are the recurring themes I hear from these incredible, inspiring women. They ask the right person about the future. You'd like to know what the future holds, and it seems like he has all the power to decide if your marriage will last or fall apart. So the obvious thing to do is ask him what his intentions are. The illusion is getting his current outlook is going to provide you with some kind of security about what's going to happen. But the outcome you might want the most, him telling you that you're the most wonderful woman in the world, that he's lucky to have you. Like sometimes when the relationship is like on the rocks and us going and up to him and asking him, what's gonna be, what's gonna happen, it kind of it's controlling. We're trying to control the outcome. My control is within me, how I show up, what I'm doing, how I'm taking care of my needs and myself. So just leaving that part, letting go, let go and let God do what you have to do and let things be. Relinquish control, because when we're controlling, it's not attractive. When you're scared about the future, it comes through in your words, giving you an air of neediness and desperation. Those aren't attractive qualities. So if what you want is to attract him back so that he shows up attentively and affectionately, all on his own, consider checking your own paper for clues about what the future holds. So check your own paper. What can you do for yourself? One powerful way to do this is to visit your imagined future self, maybe from a year from now. You can ask her how things went and have her tell you about how everything went your way. So I love this. This is a very spiritual practice. It's a manifesting practice where the way to manifest what you want is kind of just tap into your future. The way that you create your future is you kind of close your eyes and you see your happy end result. How do you want your marriage to be? And like just feel how you want it to feel. Like what is the feeling? If you guys want, you could kind of do that now. You can just close your eyes and just what is your happy end result of what you want your marriage to be like? And what does it feel like? Where are you? What's around you? What colors are around you? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? What is the emotion? How do you feel in your happiest marriage scenario? A year from now, Where would you like to be? What would you like your relationship to look like? So kind of going into it with your all of your five senses, with feeling the emotions, you're creating your future. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's how we do it. So it's a very powerful practice. It's on page 227, and I highly recommend to do this at least once a day. Just, close your eyes and create your future. How do you want it? What do you want it to look like? And create that for yourself. Create that emotion for yourself. So number two is what's on our paper, what we can do for ourselves is they got happy and smiled. While it may seem impossible when you're in a heartbreaking pain, making yourself ridiculously happy, in my experience, is imperative to making your marriage last and thrive, just as we discussed in chapter 3, which is self-care. But you can reclaim your life by deciding to have some pleasurable moments every day. Even though it may feel awkward to be happy, it's an indispensable step to reclaiming what's rightfully yours, a gratifying life and a playful, passionate marriage. If he asks why you're smiling so much, you can say that recent events reminded you that life is short and you decided to pay more attention to your enjoyment. If you're worried that he'll think you're happier without him, you can always say you're happy to see him as a fringe benefit to feeling good. You'll also be more attractive when you're smiling, right? We're so much more attractive when we're happy and we're smiling. Everybody wants to be around a person who's, in a high vibe and smiling and happy and relaxed. We all want to be around those kind of people. Um, they express their feelings, but not to him. At first, most of the women who would eventually make their marriages last and thrive after a breakdown did what anyone would do. They yelled, kicked, and screamed at their husbands, of course. They were hurting, angry, and sad. Those excruciating feelings deserve to come out and have their day in the sun. But your husband doesn't need to be the one who witnesses them. Having some safe outlets will help you avoid blowing up or melting down at your husband. Get a relationship coach, join a Laura's community, write in a journal, or tell your rabbi or a mentor, or a trusted advisor your whole sad story. Your feelings are valid. You're hurting and you're human. We all need to be heard and understood, especially you, especially now. It may feel strange to keep those critical thoughts to yourself instead of telling him about the pain he's caused you. It may seem only fair to blow up at him or have a meltdown. You may feel he deserves it, but it's not him I'm concerned about right now. It's you. I'm thinking about you. My blow-ups, um, my blow-ups and meltdowns were a release in the short run, but never made me feel better in the long run. Each one left me with an emotional hangover and the remorse of knowing I couldn't take any of it back, right? When we're angry, we say and do things that is out of alignment with who we really are. It's out of integrity. And I love how she puts it that, we have an emotional hangover afterwards. So in order to avoid that emotional hangover, in order to avoid saying things to him that we can't take back, the 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 healthy ways, she's not saying to suppress the anger. Suppressing the anger or the emotions, the hurt is never the answer. But he's not usually the one that we could talk to, because a lot of times if we're blaming and criticizing and he's the problem, he's telling him all these things is not going to help the situation, it's just going to exacerbate. So Laura is basically saying you could get a coach, talk to a rabbi, talk to your friend, journal, get a piece of paper and just get like a big red marker or black marker, just like get your feelings out onto paper, hit a pillow, get your feelings out however you want to do it without having to have the consequence of that emotional hangover. Um, Even though I wanted to let my husband have it, I didn't like who I became in those moments, and those responses never got me closer to the kind of marriage that I wanted. Making the decision to be dignified in your talks with him will pave the way for a brighter future than raging ever could. And making yourself happy will give you the reserves to make that decision. If you're having a visceral reaction to this idea, which may sound like a lot of sucking it up instead of speaking your mind, remember that this isn't the end of the story. It's only the middle. And the story will get much better. You always have the option to say whatever you want. I'm inviting you to experiment with a new way of doing things if that hasn't been as satisfying as you'd hoped. Like I say, we want different things. We have to experiment with, if we want different results, we have to experiment with different behaviors. Doing the same thing, expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So if up to now we've been defensive, blaming, shaming, reactive, and we're in a marriage that we're not so happy with, it's not the alignment that we want, and we all want and deserve happy marriages. So it's just an invitation. Try doing things in a different way. Experiment, see what happens. And we're not gonna, duct tape and be able to catch ourselves every single time. But even if we do one time, if we're critical or we're blaming or shaming one time less than we usually do it, that's already a step forward. And when we don't show up dignified in the way that we want, criticizing ourselves and blaming ourselves is not going to help us move forward and become that dignified woman. It's, if I lost my temper, the best thing to do is to catch myself and just notice, okay, you know what? I have awareness, and next time I'll try to do better, and to give ourselves that compassion, because growth happens when we give ourselves that love and compassion. There's so much more growth happens that way than when we're critical. As much as he doesn't like to be criticized, we don't need that criticism either. Like it doesn't, the first person that we need to find intimacy with is with ourselves, and to come back into ourselves, to our soul. And then that's how we cultivate that intimacy in our relationship, is as kind and gentle that we are with ourselves, we kind of radiate that back out into our relationships. Number 4, they suspended his punishment and listened. It's also natural to want him to hurt the way that she's it's also natural to want him to hurt the way he's hurting you. Unfortunately, there's no real upside to making him suffer, even though your urge to retaliate can feel more tempting than a cinnamon roll. Whether he's been rejecting you in little ways every day, moved out, or found someone else, it's incredibly painful to feel so betrayed by the man you married. There aren't words for how devastating that is. But he didn't do it because he wanted to hurt you. He did it because something was missing in your marriage. You felt it too, but didn't know what to do about it. And neither did he. It doesn't make it right or make it okay for him to never come home or break his vows. It just makes him human. If you can set aside his crime for the moment and stay focused on the worthy goal of making your marriage last and thrive, you'll give yourself a huge advantage. Instead of telling him how hurt and upset you are, consider being on the quiet side and giving him the space to talk by providing emotional safety. Because if I see him being angry and hurtful, and I'm coming in and blaming, shaming, and judging him, he's not really going to come and open to me. And obviously he's also human just like me, and there's hurt in him, and he's trying to fill in that hurt. Like if he's being controlled, if he's being manipulated, if he's being blamed, shamed, criticized, there's a hurt in him, and he's also a human being, and he's trying to, in his own way, trying to kind of fulfill that hurt. So by putting that blame, shame, and criticism aside and just creating an environment of safety, it's much more likely for him to come and talk to us and open up to us. And as much as we are vulnerable, it opens up that ability for him to be just as vulnerable and to bring back that intimacy. No anger, no judgment or tears. For a whole evening, or at least for an hour, just say, I hear you, and and nothing else. One student did this at her marriage counseling session, and her husband said, I keep waiting for you to interrupt me, but you don't. She just smiled. It wasn't long before he moved back home. So moving back home could be like a physical moving back home, or like just coming back to intimacy. They cleaned up their side of the street. When you've been wronged and he's the one who's behaving badly, it seems crazy to even think about apologizing to him. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that you apologize unless there is something on your side of the street that you'd like to clean up. If there was anything about the way you behaved that was regrettable, then consider issuing a one-time apology. I'm not suggesting that you apologize insincerely to make nice, but my experience is that there's an enormous power in being accountable for my bad behavior, even when it seems teeny compared to his bad behavior, and even if my sins were in response to his agitations. Look for the ways you were critical or controlling, and use the formula for a truly accountable apology by saying, I apologize for being disrespectful when I fill in the blank. Watch your dignity return and the conflict between you melt away. Because a lot of times, even when he's behaving badly, like so that kind of triggers things within us. We're not standing in our integrity, and we feel terrible. It's like that hangover. We don't like that. We don't like feeling that, and it's like that guilt and that hurt that's inside of us. So the best way to, again, we're doing it for us. We're cleaning up our side of the street. So if I feel any guilt or shame that I criticized him or I belittled him, I can clean up my side of the street and I can apologize. And when I do that, I model for him how I want to be treated. When I come and I'm vulnerable and I'm in humility and I, clean up my side of the street and I apologize for when I behaved in a not dignified way, that creates safety where he's able to show up in that way for me also. Stay God pleasable. If your husband tries to make you happy in any way, big or small, and from my experience, he will try, do your best to receive the gesture and convey your pleasure at his effort. You deserve those efforts, and he'll feel good knowing he was able to please you. Because, sometimes when they hurt us, we kind of like turn away and we don't want to talk to him and we don't want anything to do with him. And sometimes like he'll come and he'll try to like please us and like, get on our, and we're like, no, we kind of reject him. So if we're gonna reject him, then how do we expect like that intimacy to come back? So being pleasable is like if I'm just making myself happy and I'm cleaning up my side of the street and I feel good about myself and I'm confident, and when he comes and he tries to please me, being pleasable is being receptive. It's again, receive, receive, receive. So if he's, even though like I'm mad at him for other things or whatever it is that he's doing that like undesirable behaviors, when he is showing desirable behaviors, I can thank him. I can, whatever I want more of, I can, when I thank him for that, I'm going to get more of that behavior. With so much going wrong, it will feel strange to look for what's going right. But if you thank him for continuing to pay the mortgage, for picking up the kids, for asking how you are, you'll be focusing on the things you want instead of the things you don't. And what you focus on increases. But how do you signal pleasability? Send a silly text, do your happy dance, laugh when he's like, it shows like I'm open. I'm open to receive, I'm open to receive good things from you. It's like when I'm like girl of fun and light, when I'm laughing, when I'm silly, when I'm dancing. Laugh when he's funny and reference the inside jokes you share. Bring your playful self to your interactions with him. You could even flirt with him. Flirting signals that you feel attractive. You might feel far from that, but flirting is a shortcut to getting back there. You'll trick yourself into feeling confident instead of insecure. And feeling confident is the same as being confident. Dress up and doll up. Let him open the door and thank him with a sweet smile. Have some fun with it. You might even seduce him. This is your husband we're talking about. So even if he's being intimate um, with someone else, he's yours and not hers. So this is like, I know it's like pushing a very like tough boundary, but there are situations when, a woman isn't in that situation and, we're in a community and if, meaning like if I decide that I want him and he's my husband and I want to win him back and for whatever happened in the past, like it created this space for him to be intimate with someone else and I want to restore our marriage, it is possible. I just feel like it's important to put it out there because nobody knows what's going on in a person, between the four walls of a person's relationship. So you know, if even one person in this group relates to this and she feels like it's possible for her to restore her relationship, I feel like it's important to talk about it. So it is possible to restore your relationship no matter where it's at. You might be tempted to retaliate by locking him out of the bedroom, but when you're trying to restore intimacy, why not start with physical intimacy? It's a great springboard. Actually, next week is going to be a very spicy, juicy topic. It's all about physical intimacy. Make every meeting a date. If you see him, even if it's at the divorce attorneys, the marriage counselors, or just to hand off the kids, pretend it's a date. They got cheerleaders. You probably know plenty of people who will tell you to throw him out or figure out where all the assets are in preparation for a divorce. That kind of advice is easy to come by, but not very helpful when you're trying to fix your family. How would it impact your marriage story if you had cheerleaders to help you succeed instead? So, you know, like sometimes you go and you talk to people and you share your story with them, and they kind of like bring you down and start saying like not nice things about your husband. Like that's not helpful. So surround yourself with people who are standing for you, who are standing for your marriage, who are standing for what you feel is the right thing for you in this moment. It's very important to have cheerleaders and people who, you know, lift you up instead of dragging you lower down. There will be days when you think it's not worth it or it's hopeless and stupid to try to save your marriage. When your husband says he's done, of course you'll feel temporarily discouraged, but your vision of being happy, a happy couple and a loving family is worthwhile and possible. When you find yourself on the fence about your marriage, seek out the people in your life who support your vision. Let them remind you why you're doing it all. I, for one, am cheering for you. And I am too. I'm reading Laura's words, but I am too. I'm cheering for you to not only save your marriage, but also make it magical again. I want that for you. So this is where we end our chapter this week. All right, any questions, comments? Ladies? Any questions?
I have a question. um, if you're in a situation, for instance, where your husband did something wrong to you, where it was maybe a lie, maybe it was an affair with a coworker, maybe it was him going away with his friends, for instance, anything where he lied or he did something wrong. How do you have a conversation where you can get him to open up and come clean about the topic?
So first of all, people lie because they don't feel safe coming to us with the truth. Our kids lie. Why do kids lie to their parents? It's because they feel like if I tell you the truth, then I'm going to get in trouble. You're going to take something away from me. Like if we create a sense of safety, then lying is not going to be an issue. And if we
How do
create a sense of safety where we don't criticize, you know, we keep our side of the street clean and we have a intimate, connected relationship, there's not going to be a need to for lying.
Yeah, but they lie
Like,
because they don't want to lose you.
right, but that him lying is on his side of the street. What can you do in that moment? You can express your desire. You know, when he is honest with you about something difficult, you could say, you know, it's creating that sense of safety is like when he is honest with you and it's hard for him to be honest with you and he's vulnerable about something, instead of like, how do you respond to him in that moment? Are you reactive? If let's say you hate it when he smokes and you found that he smoked a cigarette. Oh my God. Okay, I'm just giving a scenario, two scenarios. Oh my God, we had this conversation. You promised me that you're not going to smoke. How could you do this? So this creates a feeling of I have to put my guard up. I can't be safe with this person. Or like you know, he comes to tells you, I know that you really don't like it when I smoke, but I really wanted a cigarette, so I smoked last night. And if your response is like, I hear you, you know, I'm sure it's hard for you, but you know, you're a grown man and you know what's right and wrong and you know what's good for you. So in which scenario do you think that he's more likely to be honest with you?
The second one.
Right, because there's a feeling of safety. Like he doesn't feel like you're gonna
Doesn't feel like you're
swallow him
attacking
alive.
him. But you see, the thing is, I think when it's the same thing happening over and over and over and over and over, we women develop a level of frustration.
100%. So it's a pattern. So the only way to break the pattern is to choose to respond differently than we usually do.
And then they think, what happened to my wife? Why is she not bugging out all of a
That's
sudden, right?
okay. That's okay. So you again, if you want him to show up differently, it starts with us. We could either sit and wait for him to be a different person, and we're gonna sit and wait until we're dead.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or the power is, what can I do? Because I can't change him. I can only change myself. When I change myself, inevitably, like this is all energy. When I change my energy, when I rise up, he's gonna rise up with me.
Right.
That's just what happens. And I'm not in control of him. I'm only in control of me, my reactions, my responses, and me making myself happy and filling myself up.
Got it. Now, are you able to talk after class privately?
So I am a relationship coach and I do provide coaching sessions. So if you would like to schedule a session, I'm definitely available for that.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Are there any more questions?
Now, you do the relationship coaching with couples or one-on-one with females?
No. I don't do couples. W- it, it's not really like talk therapy, relationship coaching. I kind of find your patterns and
Mm-hmm.
I help clear those blocks.
Got it.
Because we all have patterns. Some of these patterns they're subconscious and we pick them up from our ancestors. Like we're not even aware. And when we are triggered in certain situations, we respond based on our patterns, based on our subconscious patterns. We're not aware of them. It's like an automatic response.
Because you're used to
So
the pattern.
so when we clear those patterns, you're able to create a new future. You're able to, it's kind of like what's a good analogy? I'm trying to think. It's kind of like you're wearing like these glasses and your glasses are like really, really dirty and muddy and like that's all you can see. You can't see anything besides that. And I'm kind of like clearing the mud and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never seen it from this perspective.
Yeah. How much do you charge for your coaching?
So you could DM me and we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Okay? Yeah. So any more questions from anyone?
Any more questions?
Comments, takeaways, insights from tonight's class?
You're the best.
I love you. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
you guys are
awesome.
the best for
Thank you.
showing up.
Thank you for dedicating your time.
Very, very informative. Thank you, Irina.
Pleasure. Pleasure. I hope you guys feel empowered. I hope you know, feel the power of standing in your own power and choosing to take care of yourself and to stand up and be resilient and create the marriage that you want because we're women, we're super powerful, we're divine, you know, we can create the life that we want. We have that power. So thank you guys for showing up and I'll see you next week.
Take care, Irina. Bye.
All right, bye. Good night.
Bye, everyone.